All right, now to kick off today's program, it is now my pleasure to invite someone who plays a key role in driving Circle's vision across Asia and Korea. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Vice President of Asia Pacific for Circle, Yam-ki Chan, to the stage with a big round of applause.
안녕하세요. Thank you. Welcome. On behalf of Circle, I want to be first to be able to welcome you to this amazing event. This is a truly amazing time to be alive. We're living through some of the greatest innovation that's happening in technology, some of the greatest innovation that's happening in finance, and some of the greatest innovation that's happening in artificial intelligence, and it's all coming together. For Circle, in the last year has been a phenomenal year. As you saw from the video clip that we played a little earlier, we went public last year. There were the passage of new laws around the world, including the United States, around stablecoins, and there are more that are happening in different parts of the world. My name is Yam-ki Chan. I lead the business for Circle here in Asia. I also want to thank the folks that are watching online on YouTube. We're live streaming this because it is a very, very packed room here. We couldn't fit everyone in, so I want to be able to do that. So this is a really unique moment for Circle here because you will hear directly from the man who started the company, who built the business, who invented the technology, and now bringing this to different parts of the world, including here in Korea. So are you excited for this? Yes. Are you excited for this? Please join me in welcoming the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Circle, Jeremy Allaire.
Good evening. It's wonderful to be here tonight in Seoul, to be here with all of you. I've got a lot of ideas I want to share with all of you. But this lead, this unstoppable global movement is very real. And it actually reminds me of when I started the company in 2013. People would ask, well, like, what are you doing? Like, what is this about? And my belief was that the internet was its own force. Open networks, open software were sweeping over the world and have swept over so many different industries and have transformed what's possible for people all around the world through this innovation of open internet software technology. And now, the open internet, open information, open data, open software are sweeping over the global financial system and have swept into and helped create this world of generative AI. And these are all coming together, as was referenced a moment ago. And so the force of the internet is a force of powerful transformation. And my own background, I want to talk to you a little bit about this because I have been working on the transformation of different industries with the internet since the early 1990s. And we've gone through these many phases and cycles, what I like to describe as these internet platform shifts, fundamental shifts in the architecture of the internet that then usher in these major new epochs of change all around the world. So in the early 1990s, I got hooked on the internet as an open, decentralized network where anyone could connect and publish information. And I was convinced that everyone in the world who had an idea and could learn how to interact with the web could build global applications on the internet and global online services. And I helped invent a technology called Cold Fusion and built basically the tools and applications for building the web in the 1990s. And this was this transformation of opening up publishing of information to the world, the the world of information going entirely digital. And that continued to evolve as the capacities of the internet grew, as the bandwidth capacities grew, as the computers that connected to the internet got more powerful, both the PCs on one side, the servers on the other side, the mobile devices and the capabilities of those mobile devices. And we saw these additional platform shifts. The platform shifts of broadband made it possible to radically transform the way the software industry worked. Software moved to the cloud. Software reached the edge devices of billions of people, creating huge new opportunities and transformation in many, many different industries. Each one of these eras was a platform shift where there was a new operating paradigm, a new operating system in a sense. And I think there's some lessons here that are really important. We all remember the moment that the iPhone emerged. And that iPhone moment was one which was preceded by about 15 years of the mobile desert. We all remember like the early smartphones. Korea was the most advanced in the world in some ways in the early smartphones. But there were billions and billions of dollars spent building mobile platforms. But it wasn't until a number of things came together that the paradigm shifted and the platform shifted, and it became possible for millions of developers to create software that then transformed our lives with these mobile platforms. And the internet continued to evolve, and really mobile and cloud have been these dominating paradigms for the last decade or two. But in the early 2010s, people started to discover crypto and blockchain technology. And for me, I had built two publicly traded companies, two internet technology companies that I took public, both of them. And I had been paying attention to what happened in the global financial crisis. And I became obsessed with understanding what happened. How did the risks get into the system? What was the nature of money? What was the role of central banks? What was the international monetary system? How did this work? Were there ways to improve it? And I was thinking about that. And then in 2012, learned about this technology called Bitcoin, learned about this basic technology, but saw in the kernel of it the potential for another fundamental platform shift. And the origin story of Circle was this belief that over 10 or 20 years, blockchain networks would become operating systems for economic activity, for the way that all of our economic activity was organized, and that those systems would make it possible to build from the very ground up a new internet-based financial system. And at the foundation of that needed to be protocols for real money on the internet. Dollars, euros, yuan, etc. And so we envisioned a protocol for dollars on the internet built on these new computing networks. And we believe that eventually that would create a better financial system, a more open, inclusive financial system. And we've grown from those early days into pioneering and building the world's most actively used stablecoin network, and now building into this next phase of technology. Now, Circle has evolved an enormous amount. When people think about Circle, they oftentimes think about USDC, which is good. You should think about that. But our platform has evolved massively over the past couple of years. So at the core is what we call our digital assets business. That's our stablecoins like USDC, the leading regulated digital dollar, EURC, which is the leading regulated digital euro, USYC, which is the world's largest tokenized money market fund, and then infrastructure services that make those accessible to people around the world. Infrastructure that makes them liquid and available through banking systems in jurisdictions all around the world. This Circle Mint as an example. And so we built that business. USDC today handles tens of trillions of dollars of transactions. Over 60% of all traffic that moves between blockchains is moving over our protocols and is USDC. EuroC is the largest digital euro, USYC the largest tokenized money market fund, etc. But we've started to build down the stack and up the stack. Down the stack, we're building core infrastructure, what I call operating system infrastructure with Arc, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, but other infrastructure for developers, wallet stacks that allow developers to build applications that embed digital asset wallets seamlessly in any device software application. Interoperability infrastructure, which is so fundamental to how value and assets are going to move between different networks and applications. We run CCTP, which today handles, again, the majority of traffic that moves between different blockchain networks. We've also begun to move up the stack. We're building applications. We're building utilities that are useful to financial companies and their customers all around the world. Last year, we introduced CPN, a member-based network to power real-time global money movement using the capabilities of blockchains and stablecoins. CPN today has grown to have a global footprint. There are over 55 financial institutions already on the network. There are over 70 more financial institutions that are coming on or going through what we call eligibility on the network, and over 500 companies that are financial institutions in our pipeline that want to be part of this new network for how to seamlessly move value around the world. And we're in dozens of countries with this and expanding. Just between when we reported in the fourth quarter and we reported in the first quarter, we saw that grow 70% quarter over quarter to around $6 billion of annualized transaction volume. So this is a new application utility that we've built for other people to connect to and build on. And StableFX, which will launch alongside the launch of Arc in the hopefully not distant future, is very important because it creates a way for stablecoins of all different currencies to be convertible and tradable instantly over the internet. And in fact, there's a Korean won stablecoin issuer that is part of that initiative, issuing on Arc and preparing for the launch of StableFX. So we've built out this stack and this infrastructure. I want to focus in just for a minute on Arc. We began building Arc almost 2 years ago. As a company that has built smart contracts and applications and protocols on over 32 different blockchain networks, we've learned a lot about what it takes to run real money and real economic activity on these networks. And USDC has become an essential tool to institutions that are trying to use this new kind of money on the internet. And we've worked with central banks, we've worked with regulators, and we've heard what their concerns are with putting real money on the internet that's going to underpin the real economy powered by this software. With all of that in mind, we began work on Arc. And Arc is an economic operating system. Just like we had mobile operating systems and cloud platforms, economic operating systems are a new operating system layer that will not just be about storing and moving currencies. They're going to be where contracts are codified, literally executed and intermediated, where governance of corporate forms, agentic corporate forms, human corporate forms, and the synthesis of those takes place. They're going to be where all forms of financial contracts execute and run. This is the next stage of evolution, and it needs to be built for mainstream scale. It needs to have post-quantum capabilities. It needs to be privacy ready. It needs to be able to provide assurances to governments that it's safe and that transactions are final when they transact on this. Arc is the genesis of Circle, but it is being distributed and operated by major financial infrastructure companies who are joining us to stand up this network. We're in testnet. We hope to go to mainnet soon. Major financial companies, global banks, exchanges, the world's leading payment companies, major technology companies are all joining us to deploy this network. Now, we're also exploring a token for the ARC network to help provide mechanisms for governance, incentives, economic alignment, and to ultimately move it into a proof-of-stake system over time. And we hope to have more to share about that in the not-too-distant future as well. This is, for us, probably the most significant major platform effort from the company since the building of USDC. And we're very excited about what this can mean, not just for Circle, but for all of the stakeholders who are going to build on top of this and use this. Now, one area that we're very focused on, if you read the original white paper on ARC that we published, or the light paper we published on ARC, is our belief that the vast majority of economic activity in the world is going to be executed and conducted by AI. We are entering a very, very different era in the history of the global economy. The agentic economy is being born as we speak. And AI and agentic economic exchange are going to be huge drivers of our platform, of stablecoin adoption, but of much broader systems that we need to design as society for how we govern, verify, coordinate, and exchange value in this world. So, Circle is building full stacks for AI agents to become economic actors, to conduct work, to execute contracts, to build and execute contracts themselves. So all of our tools and infrastructure are being upgraded to be AI first and AI native. We've already started launching these, things like our MCP servers, our skills libraries for every piece of infrastructure. We're authoring and co-authoring standards for how AI agents make payments amongst each other with technologies like X402 and MPP. And we're building products specifically for AI. AI agent wallets, where AIs can establish ways to store value, transact freely themselves. And building systems where one AI may interact with another AI and consume a small amount of output, which is intelligence or inference work, where that work might cost 5 cents or $5 and could be streamed in real time. And so we've been building something called Circle Nano Payments, which will launch very soon, which provides a way for transactions to be priced at as low as 1/1,000,000th of a penny per transaction. And so the scale of economic activity is going to explode, and the velocity of transactions are going to explode as more and more work, as ultimately the majority of work conducted in the real economy is conducted by AI. So this is a very big shift. Now, importantly, the internet financial system is not just about AI ruling the world. It's also about you. And when we think about what we do, we think about building an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is a multi-stakeholder ecosystem. Everyone plays a part. Developers are hugely important. the creators, the innovators of ideas, executing those ideas on these platforms, making all of this infrastructure available to the creative class of developers. And now with AI tools, everyone can be a developer. Everyone can create software. The proliferation of creativity that's going to happen here is incredible. And we're already seeing that with some of the early releases of our AI-assisted developer tooling. Entrepreneurs who are crafting new ideas for what's possible in this new digital economic system, who are crafting new modes of value exchange. Many of the people in this room, I'm sure, are those entrepreneurs. Creators who are part of bringing the stories to these networks. End users all around the world, billions of people whose lives can be transformed. We're building technology that touches. Today, we think we touch around 500 million users, going to billions in the coming years. It's essential to think about what society will look like in this new world. Governments and regulators are incredibly important stakeholders for us. Everything we do, we need to do in consideration for how laws will interact with this. We need to lead governments, we need to lead policymakers and help educate them about the possibilities so that the rules that get crafted make sense to the entrepreneurs and the developers and the end users that are using these technologies. And for enterprises all around the world, whether you're a financial institution or a traditional company, how do you embrace this? My own view is 5 or 10 years from now, the nature of the corporation is going to be radically different. We're seeing that happen with leading technology companies today who are literally transforming the internals of their organizations with AI. I believe in 5 to 10 years, every organization will be a hybrid of AI, of humans, and of new systems of coordination and governance that are executing with these AI operating systems and these economic operating systems. It's going to be a very, very different world, and every established enterprise and everyone that serves those enterprises needs to kind of march through that. So we need to do this together. That's a big part of what we believe at Circle. Join the Circle. It's an incredibly important and exciting time. So thank you for coming out tonight, and we're going to continue the conversation.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Allaire. Please don't go anywhere. Stay on the stage with me for a moment, please. All right, let's give him a big round of applause for that. All right, so Mr. Allaire, your speech was incredibly informative, but yet I believe that there are going to be more questions from the audience, of course, to make the best of the time during your stay. So I'm delighted that you're going to stay with us on for this live Q&A session, Mr. Allaire. But we're going to have another person join us for this session. Mr. Simon Kim, is he already on standby? Okay, Mr. Simon Kim, CEO of Hashed, will be joining Mr. Allaire for this conversation, and together they will take questions from the audience. And to do that, please submit your questions using this QR code here. And all right, on that note, please join me in welcoming Mr. Kim to the stage with a big round of applause.
Hello, Jeremy. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too.
So we met in Abu Dhabi Finance Week 2 years ago. Abu Dhabi was really ahead of crypto regulation, and there were lots of great conversation about the stablecoin and all about the crypto at that days. So Korea is now at a similar moment. Things are moving very fast here. So it's great to see you in Seoul, and we are excited to see Circle expand presence here in the city. And before we start, I really want to say thank you about your great work about setting the guideline about the stablecoin in the industry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the first question, Korea is still working through its Digital Asset Basic Act, and key questions around the stablecoin issuance and reserve requirement haven't been settled yet. So how Circle's approaching in Korean market at this stage before the rules are finalized yet?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple things. I think the first is, USDC is used as a trading and investment asset today in Korea, and we've seen growth in that, and we want to continue to see that expand. And we announced 2 expanded partnerships today with the 2 largest exchanges here in Korea. And that just reflects the fact that there's opportunities today for what we do. And we also, we held a luncheon today with some of the leading banks and payment firms. And I think there's real engagement around how they may get involved in the emerging stablecoin opportunity here in Korea, or connect to things like CPN to be part of the global money movement and cross-border capabilities. But I think specifically with the emerging regulations here, we're spending time with the regulators here, and just as we do with regulators all around the world, and we're sharing knowledge from the work that we've done in the US, in Europe, in Hong Kong, Japan, and other places. And I think what's important is that stablecoin policies in any given country or jurisdiction need to define what's the right thing for their local market and their local currencies and how they want that to operate, but also need to determine how they interact with the global, global stablecoins and other currency stablecoins. And so a lot of our focus is, of course, as the operator of the world's largest regulated digital dollar, we want to make sure that whatever laws get established here in Korea, that we can be present here, that we can operate within those rules, that we can make sure that we are held to the highest standards, so that if there are transactions between won and dollar and cross-border transactions or investment transactions, that those can be done in a proper way. So that's really what our focus is. Of course, we share perspective on how the local market might work based on what we've seen in other markets, but I think every market has its own unique characteristics. Korea is one of those.
Yeah. So moving to Korea specifically, as a stablecoin move from trading collateral to real payment and treasury infrastructure, what needs to happen first in Korea?
Well, I think that there are short-term opportunities even before you have stablecoin laws, which is that we've already seen cross-border transactions using stablecoins, where whether it's a seller of goods or a buyer of goods, where you can conduct those global treasury transactions or global payment transactions in minutes, with lower time delays, lower cost of capital. And so I think there's opportunities immediately using the existing fiat banking system and won system combined with stablecoin networks to improve some of those things. But really, the most important thing is that won stablecoins need to be defined as part of the financial system in Korea. They need to be understood by businesses and households and financial institutions as new forms of electronic money that can be used legally for all of these activities. And I think as that happens, then the expansion into payments and treasury infrastructure will be rapid. And we're seeing that transformation already happening in the US with the passage of the Genius Act, as well as now almost every fintech involved in payments, all the traditional payments companies, they're all embedding stablecoin into their operations, and USDC in particular, with almost all of these companies. So I think that the passage of the law is critical, and I think the longer Korea waits, the further behind it will be. But obviously, your political system has to do its job on its own timeline.
So what I want to discuss with you is about the AI and agent economy. So Korea is one of the most tech-savvy country in the world. So one of the evidence is for the last spring moment, Korea was the top country for the user base of the payment for the OpenAI, even bigger than US for a short moment. So many of the OpenAI management team visited Korea suddenly at the moment. So many of the Korean citizens are using OpenAI, ChatGPT, or lots of similar AI agent these days, and also OpenClaw and Hermes agents. The kinds of agents are really getting popular in tech scene these days. So what's your expectation about combining your stablecoin infrastructure between the AI agent economy?
But it's a huge focus for us. And in fact, within about 10 days of OpenClaw launching, it was Claude Code or whatever, Claude Bot, I don't know what it was called originally. But within about 10 days of it launching, we actually launched a hackathon that was a USDC hackathon for Clause. And it was all AI agents that could enter and compete, and only AI agents could vote on the results of the hackathon. And it was amazing to see what the AIs built, and it was amazing to see how the AIs voted, but it was autonomous AIs interacting and building with USDC. Now, we have been rapidly introducing more capabilities for AI agents. We're basically building the tooling so that any AI agent can instantly educate itself on our infrastructure. We're building permissionless protocols on the public internet that AI agents can immediately begin to interact with and use. We have some really exciting stuff we're working on there, which hopefully we'll see very soon. One example I talked about was with what we call Circle Gateway. It essentially it's a permissionless protocol that allows an AI to essentially establish a unified USDC balance and make cross-chain payments in less than a second and have transaction costs at very, very small amounts, like even 1/1,000,000th of a penny. So we're building things for this. And actually, we co-authored and have been an active contributor and a founding member of the X402 Foundation. X402 is a protocol for AI to be able to make payments directly on the internet, and for people who provide APIs or services or data to surface that to AI easily. And that is now getting adopted by thousands of different services. But it's essentially a way for AI to speak to other AI and make payments. And right now, while it's still very small, 99% of the payments happening over that protocol are USDC. So we're at the forefront. We're building the tools. The ARC operating system technology has AI as a primary customer, as opposed to just thinking about it as like a traditional enterprise or a startup or a developer. We actually believe that AI itself will be customers of that infrastructure.
Yeah, so that will be the very important movement. So one of my thesis is there are lots of industries for B2C and B2B, but my expectation is within few years, business to agent, B2A, will be more larger.
Yes,
the
and
larger,
agent to agent as well.
Yeah, right. And also there will be a concept of the KYC and KYB, but also KYA, know your agent, will be
critical.
Critical. So the last question is in Korea, and not only in Korea, but also in many countries, still stablecoin the people think that stablecoin is something you use for trading mostly, not for the real world use cases. So, what's your thought and what's your company's strategy to make more adoption for stablecoin, not only for the centralized or decentralized exchanges, and expand to the real consumer or corporate use cases?
Yeah, I mean, this has been something we've been working on for years. And in fact, the changes have been happening already. So we've seen tremendous growth in the adoption of USDC as an alternative to the banking system in different parts of the world. So people who are accessing and using stablecoins as essentially like a dollar banking substitute, storing value. It's a secure store of value. There is a huge growth in basically now hundreds of startups that are building products that connect traditional credit or debit cards to stablecoins so that you can store value in stablecoins but still make payments in the existing payment system. There's been a lot of growth in international payments, cross-border payments. That's one of the fastest growing use cases in stablecoins. That's all of the growth that we're seeing with CPN. So we're trying to build products that support that more easily. We're trying to build products so that other financial institutions that serve businesses and consumers can embed the benefits of stablecoins, but kind of hide the complexity. So whether that's for a remittance or for a business payment. And then we're partnering with the best companies in the world to do this. So the two biggest e-commerce software companies in the United States and two of the biggest in the world, Stripe and Shopify, both make USDC payments for merchants available out of the box. You don't need to do anything. If you're a Stripe merchant, you hit a configuration and you can accept USDC right next to credit cards. With Shopify, when you go to the checkout page of any Shopify commerce site, pay with USDC is there. And in fact, if you pay with USDC, the merchant actually gets paid 0.5%. So merchants are incentivized to adopt this. We're seeing companies that are involved in like treasury management, embedding USDC for the treasury management, for doing payroll. Global payroll companies are now making USDC payouts an option, companies like Deal and Gusto and others. So we're seeing that happen in so many different places. So it's happening. And I think the big shift is that when you have something like the Genius Act and it essentially makes stablecoins legal forms of digital dollars in the economy, then households, businesses, financial companies treat it differently and are more comfortable using it and understanding it. And so I think really the passage of laws that bring this into the formal financial system is a big part of how the rest of the world can understand the use of this for so many more things.
Yeah, and here is the last question. So Korea is building the regulation about the Korean won stablecoin. So what's your view and plan to collaboration with the Korean won stablecoin?
Well, I think we see a lot of opportunities to collaborate with Korean won stablecoins. We'd love to see great Korean won stablecoins. Our vision is that the internet financial system will be this, built on these economic infrastructure layers, will support, very seamless movement of value around the world. We're building infrastructure for stablecoin issuers. We're building infrastructure for stablecoin payments. We're building infrastructure for stablecoin FX. All of those are things that we think would be very beneficial to Korean won stablecoin issuers. And so I think we see opportunities. We know that there will be probably several very strong projects built here in Korea, and we want to work with these projects to make sure that they can achieve this. What we've achieved with USDC, they can achieve for Korean won as well. So we see a huge opportunity to partner, be a technology partner, help with liquidity, help with distribution, help bring utility. So we definitely want to help.
Yeah, amazing. So so that's the end of the question I prepared. Yeah, so this is the question from the audience. Will you be back to Korea again?
I'm sure I'll be back.
Great to hear that. All right, and with that, I think that could wrap up the live Q&A session. Thank you very much, Mr. Allaire and Mr. Kim. I think they deserve a huge round of applause. Thank you very much. All right, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We hope that today's conversations have given you a deeper perspective on the evolving internet financial system and the forces shaping the future of finance. So this concludes our official program for tonight.